So, what has Excelsior's domain been picking up from eBay? Let's have a look. Every now and again, I see an auction on eBay and I think to myself, I think I understand that person. You know, I think I understand why he's picked the things up that he's picked up that he's now selling on. And this was one such auction. And beyond that, it had something in it, which I will show you towards the end of the video, which I was surprised to see, and which it wasn't really reflected in the price of the auction, because it wasn't, you know, it wasn't a terribly pricey auction, and I didn't have to enter into a bidding war to get the stuff. So, Airwolf. Now this is a VHS video of Airwolf, and you'll notice that it is rated 18. Now, if I remember correctly, because I haven't played this yet, I've only had this, a few days. This is the opening of the Airwolf story, in which Airwolf is stolen for the first time, and Hawk has to go and steal it back, effectively. And I'm not sure that we ever saw a great deal of this on TV. I'm sure it was probably shown on occasion, but I think what they must have done was sort of edited it down for maybe violence, maybe language, maybe a bit of both, in order to get the first sort of piloty episode of the Airwolf series out. But it started with this, which was so it was 1984. I'm just trying to see if I can see a runtime on it, and I can't actually from this distance. So Airwolf is a futuristic action adventure about an awesome billion-dollar helicopter equipped with a twin-turbine drum rotor system capable of propelling it to 300 knots, plus 14 firepower options. So there you go. So we've got mention of Archangel there on the back, and obviously Stringfellow Hawk, Dominic Santini, and yeah, so basically they go off. Oh, it's 85 minutes actually. There it is. Running time is 85 minutes. So you immediately get the sense that that's sort of 2 42-minute episodes. So that kind of works with ads as 2 1-hour episodes. So they can sort of split the start of the series across 2 episodes. But for some reason, this is an 18. So I can only imagine that it was a bit gorier in this version than the TV version ended up being. So that was the first thing, and that gave me a very sort of clear inkling of what this person might have been about, who was selling these things. So next up, as I say, this wasn't massively expensive. Now I've got some Airwolf DVDs, but I don't think that I have the complete seasons of seasons 1 and season 2. So, nice to have those. Good old playback there. This one doesn't, I'm not sure if this is playback or if this is somebody else. Oh, they're both playbacks, slightly different cover formats. So that's quite cool. It's quite nice to have both of those on DVD. And I quite enjoy the covers as well. The covers are pretty cool on there as well. I mean, I very much grew up with Airwolf. It was a terrific show. Loved it to death. And just very, very cool. Very, very cool. I mean, yes, it's of its time, but even so, it was just great. It just is, isn't it? So lovely to get those sort of together, and I'll sit and have a watch of those at some point, I'm sure. In fact, one of them sealed as well, which is almost a shame to open it up, but I will do. Then we started getting into the sort of slightly odder stuff. Well, I say odder stuff, it's not odd at all, because funnily enough, one of the things was a cassette tape. Now, the funny thing is that I have picked up some Airwolf bits and bats in the past, and this is Duel Over the Pacific, and I have the book. I have the storybook that goes with this tape, but I didn't have the tape until now. So this was turning out to be one of those auctions that was full of random goodness that sort of filled gaps, which I wasn't even trying to fill. And I know a certain vault keeper who might be interested in this potentially, because I don't have anything to play this on. Look at that. Microprose Gunship. That's glorious. The helicopter simulation, apparently. And I think it's got all the sort of manuals and stuff are in there. Just look at that. That's just awesome. It's just, that is, you know, I mean, trying to do a flight sim of any description on a Spectrum was brave of them, to say the least. But this is what Microprose did, because so it says another simulation from the creators of F-15 Strike Eagle and Silent Service, and this is what Microprose did back in the day. Because I remember having the F-19 Stealth Fighter sim, probably on the Amiga actually, but they started off much earlier. So this is a Spectrum 48 128K cassette. I haven't actually. I think I saw pictures of it in the auction. I'm not sure if I actually got it out. So let's let me unbox it for you and see what you've got. And see, this is what I loved about Microprose. Look at this. Look at the thickness of that manual. That's the game manual. That's the operations manual. And this is, I think this is probably all English as well. So you've got all this. You've got details on all the vehicles that you might be blowing up, how tracking works. You know, weapons and tactics of the AH-64A Apache. Just this is old school. That you just don't get these days, because you just get it all electronically. But in the old days, you used to get a proper manual with your complicated games, just like that. You've got registration cards. Oh, it's got a keyboard. Oh, I love these. Look at that. That's brilliant. So you cut this out and you place it around the keyboard of your Spectrum to remind you of which keys do what. I used to get this on the BBC. I remember the Elite one on the BBC, which ran underneath your function keys to tell you what, you know, which keys did what. That's brilliant. Loading instructions. CBM 64 128. Spectrum, Atari XL XE, Amstrad 464, Apple, Amiga, Atari ST, IBM. Wow, that's brilliant as well. I love it. Cassette, switch on, holding start and option keys down. Wait for beep, press play on recorder, then press return, apparently, for the Atari. Variations from manual for Spectrum version. Oh dear. Vehicle identification is not necessary. Pilot roster is not necessary. Screenshots in manual RC64 will differ on Spectrum. 48K version does not give primary and secondary targets and briefing. Oh, bless it. So you can see that they obviously had to make some compromises there. 128K owners can upgrade to a single cassette version by simply returning the 2 cassettes to Microprose, together with the completed warranty card and £1 to cover administrative costs. Bless them. This offer is open within 7 days of purchase. You've got to be quick. So please also return your original purchase receipt. Wow. They were taking no chances in terms of it being a pirated version, were they? So don't try and send you dodgy pirated versions in. And there they are, look. So there are both cassettes. They're looking pretty minty as well. I mean, I bet they'd play. I bet you could still load that. That's awesome. I love the fact that's in such good condition as well. That's been well looked after. So technical order. Look at that. So that must be the issue with the manual, presumably. 1st of November 1986. Wow, that's awesome. I just love that as a little piece of computer game history. I just think that's rather lovely. There's big cardboard box as well. Brilliant. Loving it. Loving that. Loving it. And then, because apparently that wasn't enough, we have an actual Apache. A little baby Apache there. It's very plasticky. I don't think it's anything to write home about, but it is an Apache, I believe, give or take. Now, I don't know what these are. These strike me as being slightly sort of Batcopter-esque, except that they've got bright yellow wings on them. So I'm not quite sure who that belongs to. I'm trying to squint at it now. It could be one of those times when I can decipher it later, but I can't read it right now. It's Hot Wheels from the looks of it, but I don't know if it's actually just a generic Hot Wheels chopper or something else. And there were 2 of them. So that was part of the overall job lot. Let me give you a slightly better view there as I start lining these up. There we are. It's rather dark. Oh well, okay. Done what I can there, I think. That's better. Okay. And then, and a couple more. Now, I'm not actually sure. This could be is this a hind? Is that a Russian hind? Is that the sort of thing that was trying to kill Maverick towards the end of the second Top Gun film? It's possible, isn't it? And that one might be an Apache again, I think, possibly. And then, of course, there was the final helicopter in the auction. The final helicopter in the auction. Now this one has obviously seen better days, bless it. But it is nevertheless an Airwolf. This is an Ertl Airwolf, the small version of it. And I have been on the lookout for this for a long, long time. They don't come up very often. And yes, it's beaten up all to heck and back. It's got a very wonky missile launcher that could probably be bent back into shape. But there she is, and that's just crazy. I never thought I would find one loose. And the funny thing was that this was just lurking in amongst all the other bits in this auction. It wasn't attracting attention to itself in the slightest because it was in with a job lot of all this other stuff. And I can't even remember what I searched on. I may have searched on Airwolf. It's certainly possible. But this wasn't sort of screaming, I'm going to have a die-cast Airwolf in it to me at all. So had I not been actually looking at the pictures, I would not have picked up on that just by sort of searching. Now, it's not even, I don't know, it could be spares and repairs. If someone could replace the rotor blade and the tail, you know, there's something to be used there, certainly. But realistically, you know, that's very much a spares and repairs. But what has impressed me about it is the sheer size of it. Now, one of the reasons that I was really keen to get this and was hoping it wasn't going to go and do anything stupid was because you might recall that a little while ago, I picked this one up from Doncaster. And this is a very sort of generic Ertl product. It's just a police helicopter with rotating blades, but it is the same model, same helicopter as Airwolf. And now that I can compare them alongside each other, I can see that this is definitely categorically the same helicopter as Airwolf. And interestingly, this one's rotor blades are sort of a dark grey colour, and I think that'd actually be a better match for an Airwolf than white rotor blades. I'm not sure why they chose to give it white rotor blades in the first place. But it's got this also, I mean, now that I'm looking, I've never actually compared them side by side before. I'm looking at it hard now. And I've got the same landing gears. You've even got spare landing gear, in effect, off this Ertl. Now, they are just using rivets. I suppose if you know how to do it, you could get the rivets out to separate it and try and swap stuff out. You can see that, you know, there's a lot of similarity between the two there. So if you did want to just paint this one black, then you could do something with it. But then you'd have to sort of consider the cannons and the missile launchers on the bottom and try and figure out some way to get those on to bring it up to Airwolf spec. But I do think that is the same mould. You know, I mean, I suppose but you could black out the canopy and the windows, and it would definitely, I think it would definitely be the right kind of look. Yeah, I mean, the thing that even the detailing's correct. You know, just sort of the indentations and so on. So that could definitely work. However, there has been a development. And this was the development. Because I finally put my money where my mouth was. And at about the same time as I found that job lot, I saw this on eBay. Because as I mentioned, I was searching for Airwolf on eBay. And I consulted with Gareth. I said, Gareth, do you think this is genuine, please? Because there's a little bit of over slippage on the card kind of down here. So the plastic is a little bit beyond the card at this point. And I just thought, You know, is it one that someone's put a bubble back onto? But regardless of all of that, this is a very, very minty, small Ertl Airwolf on a card, sealed, and it's rather lovely. And it's not coming out with the bubble because I've got that sort of busted up one to have a look at as by way of comparison and actually sort of feel the weight of it and everything in the hand. Now, interestingly, that is interesting. One thing I've just noticed here is that the one that I was just, and literally I'm just doing this comparison now because I've never looked at them alongside each other before. That is really interesting because the one that I have here, has black windows, whereas the windows of the one in the blister are clear. Now, that's really interesting to me. Does that mean they're missing? Or has somebody done something different to this one's? Or is this a different edition of it? Now, answers on a postcard for that one, because the rotor blades are white. The tail fin is, the sort of the stabilizers are kind of white. But why are the windows different, I wonder? So does that mean that this is a problem with this, or is it a problem with this one because somebody's done something to it after the event? I wonder what's happened there. Has somebody done something to this one? But these do feel like normal, like it's got sort of normal windows. That's kind of odd, isn't it? But I'm hoping that this one is bob on because it certainly wasn't cheap as you might imagine. But it doesn't actually have, and it has it's relatively slim on the back, but it's definitely got sort of the Ertl information on the back. So I'm reasonably confident that it is actually what it's purporting to be. And even if it isn't, it's still a really lovely thing to have, I think personally, because I don't think you see these come up very often at all. I think there's also, I wonder if this came out of one of those multi-pack. Wasn't there a multi-pack? I don't know why I'm just talking out loud here. I'm thinking out loud. But there was a multi-pack of Airwolf vehicles as well, because you can get the Santini chopper as well, I believe, and a Jeep. So maybe Airwolf came in that as well, and that Airwolf version was slightly different. I don't know. But anyway, there you have the Ertl die-cast Airwolf, which I never thought I'd ever have. And I mean, I did try and, as is the way with these things, I tried to bargain the guy down on eBay. But as he said to me, well, look, at the end of the day, eBay is going to take a cut out of this from me, so I can't really do any better. And I couldn't argue with that as a concept. He's right. eBay would knock down what he was going to get for it. But the thing that made it slightly more palatable for me was that not only did I get that, this was actually another slight job lot auction because I also ended up with this. And this is quite nice as well. As you can see, it's another Ertl product, which I have shown you before, because again, I do have one loose. But this is a rather nice Ertl Night Rider. You can see it's unpunched, which is a small thing, but nice. 1/64 scale, Night 2000. And I do have a loose version already. And it's actually earlier than Airwolf, so it's 1982, this one, rather than 84. I think it was 84, the Ertl Airwolf. Let me just double check that. So I'm not, yes, 84. Again, it's just a sort of the standard Ertl, kind of Ertl Collectors Club application on the back there. So again, it's another nice one to have on a card, and it made it slightly easier to justify the overall cost of the auction, because this in and of itself would probably go for sort of 30, 40 quid if you could sell it for that, because obviously it's sealed, it's on its card, it's in nice condition. So, I mean, I have never had anything graded. I've never had anything graded because I haven't really necessarily believed in the value of having things graded. But if I were to only want to leave it on the card, then maybe that's what I'd do. Because, if there were ever anything that ought to be preserved and sort of graded, then surely it's got to be something like this, which is in rare supply, and in reasonable condition. I don't think it would get a super high grade because I don't think the card is entirely perfect. But it's just funny considering what I didn't pay for the one on the left, considering what I paid for the one on the right. That they're the same mold, but would attract such sort of radically different prices. That is one of those quirks of toy collecting, I guess. But yeah, I ummed and ahed about it so much. You can imagine it was one of those sort of self conversations or conversations with self that I was just sort of going, should I, shouldn't I, should I, shouldn't I? Sort of by the time I thought about it, someone else is going to have taken it, and then that'll be the end of the conversation anyway. But then nobody did. So I ran out of excuses basically to not get it. But if anyone wants to do a DIY version of it, then go for the police helicopter on the left. And I've just given you some visual references there if you wanted to try and convert a police helicopter into Airwolf, because that looks like it would work as a concept because they do appear to be the same mold. So yeah, on that bombshell, I will leave you there. I'm recording this one on a Friday because I'm going to go to Cromford over the weekend, as I think I mentioned before. So I might not get another video ready by my normal Monday slot, but I thought I'd put this out on my Monday slot just to give you something to look at, basically. So there you are. So those are two more examples of the rather wonderful world of Ertl, which I've given you a video on before now. So do go and have a look on the channel if you are interested in Ertl as a concept, as a maker of toys, because I have looked at a few things from them now, and I have always loved their die cast aircraft and the general sort of hardiness of them. And as they did this sort of little line of sort of 80s tie-ins, which no one else was doing, so that's the only reason we've got any of these toys, basically, is Ertl. So that's it for this one. I hope you've enjoyed getting sight of that somewhat rare item, and I rather enjoyed looking at the MicroProse box as well, just because that was just something that I didn't really ever expect to have in my hands. So I will leave it there, and as I say, I've got a few other bits and bats that the problem is every time I think I'm about ready to do a video, I see something else that I want to get hold of. So I'm holding myself up a little bit here, but I will be back before long. So do like and subscribe as ever if you've enjoyed that, and thanks for watching. Cheers for now.